on Sunday afternoon, in the summertime, that was our weekly trip out to eat. After church, we'd go to Frost Stop and get a hamburger. And the rest of the time, we ate at home. And Mom would cook. I remember coming in to the kitchen and smelling the food, and I can still get nostalgic thinking about that. Anybody remember those days? A few of you do. My dad was the principal disciplinarian in our home, as that should be. But don't think for a minute that Mom didn't know how to correct bad behavior as well. She did it a little bit differently. She was not near as mechanical about that as my dad was. You know, Dad was cut and dry. It was mechanical. He had a paddle that was about that thick and about that long. And he had this routine that we would go through. We had an old converted chicken house that was affectionately known around our neighborhood as the Snake House. It was known for that because the chickens had moved out and the snakes had moved in. And that was Dad's preferred place for providing the Board of Education to the seed of knowledge. And it was, everything was cut and dry, and you went out to the snake house and, you died. And then a couple hours later, you rose from the dead. But, Mom wasn't near as mechanical about it. Mom was more emotional about it and more spontaneous about it. In our backyard, we had a lot of fruit trees. We had grapevines, and we had cherry trees and pear trees and apple trees and all those kind of things. And Mom had this habit of every time she needed to administer justice, she would just simply get a switch from the cherry tree, and she would then chase me all over the yard, and she would just simply, wherever the cherry tree limb just happened to prevail, that's where it prevailed. And she got the message across real quick. I remember as I got a little bit older, my dad sitting me down one day and telling me in no uncertain terms that I would never, in any shape, manner, or form, show my mother disrespect, or he would kill me. And I never did. I look back on my parents now, and after all these years, and I thank God I never showed my mother disrespect. Never talked back to her. I'm talking about as I grew older. Never spoke disrespectfully to her. I would hate to have to apologize to my mother at the judgment seat of Christ, as some people are going to do. Maybe some of you in this room are going to do. I thank God that I can look back over that home life and I can remember that abiding respect. And you dads, If you're not teaching your sons and daughters to respect their mother, you are a failure as a father. Nothing more disgusting than a young person who does not treat their mother respectfully. Nothing more cowardly, nothing more carnal, nothing more sinful than a youngster who disrespects his or her mother. And I see the way some of these young people talk to their mothers, even around the church. And the way they treat their mothers, and the way they laugh at their mothers and mistreat their mothers and sometimes spit at their mothers, holler at their mothers, curse at their mothers. Any dad that would tolerate a child that would do that to a mother isn't worth spit. And any child who would treat their mother that way isn't worth spit. The Bible says that we are to honor our mothers and our fathers, and if we don't, we have no assurance that we're going to live very long in this world. How long you live may be directly determined by how respectfully you treat your mothers and your fathers. That's how important it is to God. Our mothers and dads are not perfect. They make mistakes just as we do. But there is not another relationship in our entire existence that compares to a relationship of a child with his or her mother. There's only one mom. And that relationship is very unique. My mother taught me the importance of being faithful to the Lord. She never missed church, never. I've never known her to miss church. When she was not feeling well, she did not use that as an excuse to stay home from church. I've seen her go to church when she was very sick, but she would not miss. She sang in the choir. She used her gifts for the Lord. She served as church bookkeeper for many years. She would do whatever the pastor needed her to do, anything that he would ask her to do, she would do it. Never knew her to say no to something that needed to be done. I saw in her that spirit of faithfulness, that dedication of heart. Mom was a praying woman. There were many times that I would see my mother and my father, for that matter, on their knees in prayer. I remember for a couple years there when I was a teenager and I was away from the Lord and not serving God as I should, and I'm not proud of that. But there was a couple years when that was true. And I remember sometimes coming in late at night after work or whatever, and the first sound that I would hear as I walked into the door was the sound of my mother on her knees praying for me.